The moment Linda Harrington's smug little grin melted into wide-eyed terror is burned into my memory like a brand. And honestly, I still get a little satisfaction thinking about it there. She was perched at the head of the HOA table passing judgment, like she was Queen of Oak Ridge Estates. And when my wife Sarah slid that federal badge across the polished wood, I swear for a split second you could see every drop of color drain from Linda's face. The federal seal practically glowed under the harsh fluorescent lights, and once Linda actually processed what she was reading, her jaw just dropped seriously like one of those novelty nutcrackers where the mouth just hangs open. The whole room fell so silent you could hear her swallow from across the table. Let me back up a second, because how we even got to that point is the kind of story you just can't make up. My name's David Thompson, and about 6 months back, Sarah and I moved into what we thought was going to be our forever home in Oak Ridge Estates, one of those neighborhoods where the grass is cut to exactly 2.5 inches. Everybody's got the same mailbox, and the HOA rulebook reads longer than a legal thriller. I work for a tech contractor, nothing wild, just your average 9 to 5 stuff. Sarah, though, she always kept things a little mysterious. She was polite but private, worked weird hours, and never offered details about her job. It didn't take long for that to get under Linda Harrington's skin. From the first week, Linda made it obvious this was her territory she was in. Her 50s, hair always perfectly set, and she never left the house without her color-coordinated pantsuit and her trusty clipboard marching up and down the street like she was doing a military inspection. She'd be out there measuring fence posts with a ruler, jotting notes about who left their trash cans out for too long. She lived for that stuff. And the fact that Sarah didn't chit-chat at the mailbox or show up for book club, that was like a challenge to Linda. Me, I'd leave for work at 8 sharp, same routine every day. But Sarah, sometimes she'd leave at 3 in the morning. Other times she'd be home for days, blinds drawn, working away at her laptop. If you tried to talk to her, she was friendly enough but never gave up anything real, just that she worked for the government in admin. The harassment started small, as these things always do. We got a noise complaint because, get this, Linda claimed she could hear Sarah typing after 10 p.m., and filed an official complaint for excessive keyboard usage. Yeah, that happened. Next came a citation for the lawn being 0.22 inches too high in one patch. Linda actually got down on her hands and knees with a ruler to measure it, while Sarah just watched from inside, sipping her coffee with this look that was half amused, half exasperated. But Linda's real gift was sowing gossip. At HOA meetings, she'd lean in, lower her voice, and start whispering about how odd it was that Sarah kept such strange hours, never talked about her job, always getting packages with no return address, using words like suspicious and unstable, until some of the more gullible neighbors started looking at us sideways. Folks started ducking out of conversations at the mailbox, curtains twitched when Sarah walked our dog, that kind of thing. Then Linda stumbled on her so-called smoking gun. While checking property records, probably looking for someone to bust, she noticed a clerical mix-up, some HOA paperwork. Only had my name, not Sarah's, even though the deed was correct. She pounced on that like a cat with a mouse, called an emergency board meeting, and basically put Sarah on trial. Picture it. Linda, standing at the podium, waving paperwork insisting Sarah wasn't a legal resident, might even be a squatter, and therefore was a security risk. Her little clique on the board all nodded along, lapping it up. Afterward, I tried to reason with her in the parking lot, explained it was a paperwork glitch, we were married, Sarah's on the deed, all above board. Linda just smiled, that smug, tight little smile, and told me, "Well, the process is already in motion, Mr. Thompson. The rules are the rules." She acted like she was doing me a favor by warning me. She said if Sarah couldn't prove her residency, she'd have to leave. I was furious, but I held it together, knowing Sarah wouldn't want me to lose my cool. 3 days later, Linda showed up on our doorstep herself, wearing this blinding lime green suit and clutching her clipboard like it was a shield, and served us an official notice. Sarah had 72 hours to provide proof she belonged there, or else. She made sure to mention the HOA's legal team was fully behind her. Sarah took the papers, read them, didn't even blink, then smiled. Not a real smile, more like she was about to drop a chess move Linda wouldn't see coming. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Linda. I'll be sure the right people are informed." Linda just huffed and strutted back down the driveway, already planning her next speech, I'm sure. That evening, Sarah made one phone call. I didn't catch much, just her giving our address and saying yes, sir, a couple times. She hung up, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "Don't worry, this will be sorted soon." For the first time since this circus started, I actually believed her. Next morning, an unmarked black SUV rolled up. Two men in dark suits, real men in black types, stepped out and instead of coming to us, walked straight over to Linda's place. I watched through the window as Linda opened the door in a bathrobe, went dead pale, and just nodded as they flashed their IDs. They left after a minute, and Linda stood in the doorway looking like she'd seen a ghost. Over the next 48 hours, those same guys had little meetings with every member of the HOA board. I ran into Tom Morrison, one of the board members, at the grocery store. He looked like he hadn't slept, muttered something about federal oversight, then bolted. Janet, the board secretary, wouldn't even make eye contact. Thursday rolls around, HOA meeting night. Sarah tells me she's going unusual since she normally dodges all that drama. She spent extra time getting ready, pulled out this crisp black suit I'd never seen, and when she came downstairs, she had her federal badge hanging from her neck. She just gave me a look and said, "I've got this." I waited in the car but could see through the windows. As soon as Sarah stepped into that community center, the room froze. Linda was at the podium mid-rant and stopped dead like a deer in headlights. Sarah walked up, heels clicking. Man, I swear she's never looked more in control. She slid her badge across the table and the board members all leaned in like they'd just seen a live grenade. Janet even gasped and covered her mouth. Sarah stood there, calm as ever, introduced herself properly for the first time. Dr. Sarah Thompson, Senior Nuclear Defense Analyst, Department of Energy with Q clearance and SCI access. For those who don't know, Q clearance is top-tier nuclear clearance, higher than most top-secret stuff, and SCI is even more restricted. She didn't threaten, didn't raise her voice, just explained that harassing or attempting to evict a federal employee with her level of clearance over bogus residency claims was a big deal, so big that several federal agencies were already involved. She told them there'd be a full audit of HOA records, especially looking for patterns of harassment against federal employees. She let slip very casually, I might add, that the FBI's counterintelligence division was now quite interested in why a civilian was so obsessed with her comings and goings. Linda tried to bluster something about just following procedures, but Sarah cut her off. Produced a folder with every citation, complaint, rumor, and insult documented and time-stamped. The legal team you mentioned, Sarah said, has already been contacted by federal attorneys. You should expect a call. The board turned on Linda so fast I thought they'd start gnawing on her. Tom immediately called to table any action against us. Janet seconded so quickly she spilled her coffee, and within minutes the board unanimously dropped every charge. But Sarah wasn't finished. Calm as ever, she suggested the board might want to consider electing new leadership, given the serious legal jeopardy Linda had placed them in. What followed was the fastest no-confidence vote in HOA history. In less than 10 minutes, Linda was stripped of her title and her board seat, left sitting there, opening and closing her mouth like a fish out of water. When she finally managed to protest, Sarah reminded her that interfering with federal employees could lead to charges under several statutes, obstruction, harassment, and more, each carrying up to 5 years in prison and fines of $250,000 per incident. Linda turned this sickly shade of green as she did the math: 23 incidents, over $5 million in possible fines. She stood up, let out this strangled sob, and bolted for the parking lot, her lime green suit practically glowing as she ran to her car. Tom Morrison was made interim president on the spot, and the meeting ended almost before it began. Sarah calmly collected her things, nodded to the board, and walked out, composed as ever. On the drive home, she tucked away her badge, turned to me with a tiny smile, and suggested we get ice cream. Just like that, the woman who had single-handedly dismantled our HOA tyrant was back to being my quiet, nerdy wife who liked mint chip and gardening. After that, Linda's downfall was rapid and brutal. The feds audited the HOA and uncovered all sorts of dirt, discriminatory enforcement, missing funds, you name it. Within a week, Linda put her house up for sale at a loss just to get out. Last time I saw her, she was pumping gas into a U-Haul looking frazzled. No makeup, hair a mess, she wouldn't even look at me. Life around here got better fast. The new board made sure all our documents were squared away. Tom apologized for everything, and neighbors started giving Sarah respectful distance. Nobody cared about her odd hours anymore. She started a quirky garden out back and even stuck a caution radioactive materials sign next to the tomatoes just as a joke. Nobody's dared to complain. As for Linda, well, she's still dealing with the fallout, outstanding fines, legal threats, and a community that'll never forget how fast her little kingdom fell apart. Last I heard, she tried to argue with the new board about the $37,000 in violation fines. Janet said Linda's scream when she opened that certified letter could be heard clear across the street. So now I gotta ask, where do you stand? Was justice served or was it overkill? Is there ever a good side to these HOAs, or do they just exist to make everyone miserable? Drop your thoughts below because trust me, every neighborhood's got a story like this and I want to hear yours.